Hello, my name is Ali Haeri, and thank you for tuning in today. Today, what we're going to talk about is CTV's halo effect, a PPC and SEO marketer's superhero origin story. Again, my name is Ali Haeri. I'm Senior Vice President of Marketing at MNTN. And really, I think the most important part of my background is, my career has been mostly in performance marketing, specifically in the B2B marketing space. And so, talking about how connected television sits nicely alongside paid search and paid social. These are these are channels that I've used directly myself quite a bit throughout my entire career. So this is all just familiar to me, and when I do these presentations, especially with some with a publication like Search Engine Land, really it's important for me to kind of uh, identify myself as your peer here. Really, I'm somebody who again has a deep background in performance marketing, and I love kind of talking about how connected television is very familiar to all of us performance marketers, and we'll get into precisely why in today's presentation. Now, the big takeaway today is that the halo effect of connected television is really impressive, and I think the people that stand to benefit the most from that halo effect are SEOs, and also PPC marketers. As we'll see in just a moment, the effect of running CTV campaigns can really be felt by those that are tuned into search engine marketing, and also those that are doing just general performance marketing in the advertising space. And so, what we'll first talk about is just the rise of CTV and performance marketing, how that's trending. You're likely reading a lot about it in all the different trade publications these days, so let's kind of make sense of it. Then we'll get into what that halo effect actually means, and the impact of that halo effect on search and social advertising. After that, we'll talk about how CTV is turning PPC and SEO marketers specifically into superheroes. And again, what we mean there is precisely how CTV is affecting the lives positively of PPC and SEO marketers. And finally, we'll give you some pointers in terms of how to identify the right CTV ad solution. We really don't want to come off salesy in any sort of way. We really just kind of want to educate the market as we normally do. And so we have some guidance for you all in terms of precisely what to look for in identifying the CTV solution that makes the most sense. Now, getting right into it, CTV has had an incredible growth trajectory over the past several years. I think everybody who's tuning into this likely streams television, and likely has completely cut the cord, if not never had a cord, so to speak. The movement to streaming has just been totally seismic. There was a Nielsen study that showed a real milestone or a watershed moment that happened mid 2022, which was that was the first month that streaming television sort of exceeded traditional broadcast TV in viewership. So it's a big moment, and again, I think just kind of considering your own behaviors and the behaviors of your family and friends. Likely everybody you know is probably streaming television at this point. So a lot of this, I think, intuitively kind of checks out. What's really interesting from the perspective of all of us as performance marketers is the fact that television is now a fully measurable and targetable performance marketing platform. That's especially crazy to say, considering the fact that as prestigious as TV advertising has historically been, with that has come a lot of limitations. But with connected television, a lot of those limitations have kind of gone away, and you can really just neatly view CTV as a performance marketing channel. Now, to that last point, there's a lot of developments related to CTV that are just really conducive to advertising. First is just from the perspective of like viewers and just the consumption of connected television, CTV is more advertiser friendly than ever. The first big observation is the fact that every major streaming service platform now has an ad supported version. And this is, most notably Netflix and Disney Plus. They deployed ad supported versions. They both have over 100 million users using their platforms, That's a lot of inventory that's been opened up to connected television advertisers. That, in conjunction with just again the seismic growth of people choosing to stream television as opposed to watching it on broadcast television, on broadcast. These are just the perfect ingredients for an ad channel that has a healthy amount of inventory and a really captive audience. What's also interesting too from this perspective, and I think specifically of interest to you all who are tuning in today, is the fact that CTV specifically has made television a performance marketing channel. I've mentioned that a couple of times now, but what does that actually mean? Well, when you think of the profile of the classic performance marketing channels that you probably lean on right now, say, some sort of social platform like Facebook or search advertising, there's a couple of key, criteria that you have in relying on these channels. The audience targeting is very high fidelity. The ability to just kind of have self-sufficiency, being able to go in and modify your advertising and optimize them as you go along. And being able to get real-time reporting back to you so you can kind of react based off of that. And conveniently, connected TV, depending on which platform that you're using, can actually deliver on all of those things now. And so, speaking to like audience segments in a platform like Mountains, there's an integration with the Oracle Data Cloud, which has 80,000 different audience segments to it. And so experientially, it's kind of like when you're building a social app and you have all these affinity and in-market and interest-based audiences available to you. Same thing. It's always fun to see marketers build their first connected TV campaign in a platform like Mountain because uh, I think they go into it thinking that it's going to be a quite different process, but actually it's very familiar, especially from an audience targeting standpoint. And again, there's self-sufficiency. When you think of what it takes to actually advertise on linear television, there's usually an agency involved, there's a huge lead time, there's a lot of just inherent restrictions and reviews that go along with each individual publisher, TV network. Whereas in this case, just like you would with any other channel, you have self-sufficiency. You could just upload your ad and deploy your campaign, just as you would with any other performance channel. And finally, reporting is real time, and it's also portable. You can take real time TV campaign reporting and pipe it into something like Tableau or Domo. So the point here is characteristically, connected television is very consistent with a lot of the other performance marketing channels that you may already be using. Now, what's really kind of interesting, and I think the sort of more sophisticated performance marketer play here is how do you coordinate your sort of marketing mix of channels that you're using in your day-to-day campaigns. You certainly have search and social campaigns running, and the really important thing here is uh, no one's talking you out of doing search and social campaigns and doing CTV instead. That's absolutely not the message here. The idea here is making room for connected TV within that mix of search and social. What we've really observed from advertisers that use our platform is that CTV has become the third cornerstone to their advertising strategy. Now, another way to kind of consider this too is the fact that consumers are on a multifaceted journey on the way to a conversion, and there's a variety of touch points. Now, in the case of search and social, think of that as kind of like a 2D way of influencing the user journey, whether they hit a search engine or they're passively browsing a social feed, they're going to get hit with your advertising. Now, CTV, as that third channel, can sort of make that journey 3D in a sense, in that now you have a completely different device type that can actually serve an ad to the user. In this case, it's going to be on television. And so, and we'll get into this a little bit later in terms of how it specifically influences or complements other channels. But CTV can really sort of help generate that initial interest. And then it can also play a role in sort of the mid and lower funnel as well, depending on which types of campaigns you're actually running. And so, to that point, retargeting is a great example of this. You can, just to be clear about it, you can retarget with television ads. In fact, that's something that we do at Mountain. If you visit Mountain's website and then you stream ad supported television, you will likely see advertising from Mountain because we retarget site visitors on television. And this is powerful for all the reasons that you intuitively know about the impact of retargeting advertising. It keeps your brand top of mind. It really utilizes the bottom of the funnel, lists that you have. And as we know, with any other channel, retargeting lists have the highest propensity for converting. And really, just in terms of a performance marketing strategy, you always have to have some retargeting at play. But this is a quite unique retargeting experience. And this is, in the case of Mountain, we're a B2B brand. And I get that feedback from our sales organization all the time where they talk to a prospect and they say, "Oh, yeah, I visited your website and I saw your ads on television." In our case, it's great because it's kind of like a demo of our own product in terms of what the end user experience actually is. But it really sort of is highly noticeable in terms of what the ad experience actually is. And again, it's just a really unique way to run a retargeting campaign. Now, at the start of this presentation, I kind of talked about this concept of a halo effect, and this is very real, and it's actually been measured as well. And I want to kind of get into what some of these results actually look like. But really, there's a couple of ways to kind of think about this. There's the sort of informal way to kind of think about the halo effect of CTV advertising, and really, what that is uh, something I mentioned earlier, and I think a lot of people on this call would agree, is that television advertising generally has long been considered sort of one of the most prestigious ad units available to marketers. It's conducive to a narrative because you can have a 30-second ad that tells some sort of story over the course of that time. It's on the biggest screen in a house, and it can also be set alongside some really premium content, whether it be a sporting event of some sort of note or some hot show that everybody's watching. And again, from an ad experience standpoint, it encompasses the whole screen. It's non-skippable. You have to see it. And so for a very long time, television advertising has been, again, like a prestige ad channel for marketers. So there's a halo effect informally in the sense that it's just a great look for your brand to be able to advertise on television because again, there's a correlation with only established brands really advertise on TV. So utilizing that certainly valuable for any advertiser. But we're all likely performance marketers on this call, and we're not here to talk about fuzzy things like just brand perception. Let's actually talk about real impact, and this halo effect actually is also measurable. And what we've kind of noticed is that when advertisers are running CTV alongside their paid search and paid social campaigns, CTV is actually positively impacting those other campaigns as well on these different channels. And this is again why we really encourage everybody to turn CTV as that kind of third cornerstone to your advertising strategy. When all of these things are working in concert with one another, it's really impressive. You're going to get more attention, more qualified site visits, and more opportunities to kind of tee up the performance on another channel. Now, here's something that we've actually measured with our own advertisers. And this is looking at a 30-day mark and then also a 90-day mark. So at 30 days, we have seen over 4% increase in conversion rates on complementary paid social campaigns that advertisers are running. Also, an increase in the conversion rates on paid search campaigns. That's just at 30 days. When you're running a CTV campaign, you really hit your stride at 90 days. Just not even considering the impact of the CTV campaign on search and social, just generally speaking, you really hit a stride in terms of the platform really being optimized for the delivery of your campaigns at 90 days. And the impacts that the CTV campaigns have on these other channels at 90 days is really impressive, because now you've had 3 months of delivery and growing your audience. And we see over 8% increase in conversions for paid social, over 22% increase in conversion rates for paid search as these TV campaigns run over time. And so, there's a lot of kind of benefits here that are available to PPC and SEO marketers when you're running these CTV campaigns. It's allowing you to blow past your KPIs. Just for starters, it's a performant ad channel that's going to actually convert you for you. So, just fundamentally, it's an important channel to run because you're going to get conversions from it. It's also going to uncover new opportunities and produce more leads or revenue for your business. Obviously, make you look really good because as a performance marketer myself, it's not every day that a new performant ad channel with real volume kind of comes along. And so being the first one to spot that is going to be really good for you. Now, back to that point of kind of playing CTV off of other channels, or being able to use connected television to the benefit of other channels. There's some other ways to kind of like think about this. One is from a creative standpoint. So one thing that we've kind of observed is this kind of goes in two different ways. There's sometimes advertisers that come and they're interested in running on connected television. They just don't have creative. And what we've seen is, and what we sort of advise is, the first place to look is to see if you're doing any sort of social video advertising. In a lot of instances, your social video ad can be repurposed into a CTV ad. Now, when I say repurpose, just a couple of rules of the road here is that on a platform like Mountain, we run 15 and 30-second ads. So you got to make sure that your ad is one or the other in terms of length. So 15 or 30 seconds, got to be mindful of that. And the other kind of consideration is just the specs for running a CTV campaign. These are ads that run on televisions, and so they do need to be encoded at a pretty high frame rate. And so, not necessarily all video ads are encoded at the same sort of standard that is needed for CTV ads, but you give this to any sort of video editor, this is a pretty easy problem to solve. But just kind of keep that in mind. Now, we've also seen it go the other way too. We've seen people produce creative for CTV and then use that creative in their social campaigns. As they've seen it sort of perform really well for themselves on TV, they've used that as the social as the creative in their social campaigns as well. So it can go either ways. Either way, it can be interchangeable to some extent. Now, another thing that's kind of interesting, and this kind of helps make sense of the metrics that we just saw on a slide ago, is the impact of CTV on paid search. And so CTV, and I could say this as someone who leads a marketing team that does a lot of CTV advertising of our own, it drives a lot of traffic to a website. And in this case, CTV can really drive a huge spike in branded search results. Just again, think about the end user experience. Someone is sitting on their couch watching television. I don't know about you all, but I have my phone in my hand as I'm watching television. And as I'm somewhat paying attention to the TV, I'm also just kind of, second screening on my device in a variety of ways based off of whatever it is that I'm actually watching. And so, one thing that we've totally observed both for ourselves, and we've also seen this happen for a lot of our advertisers, is that running CTV ads at scale creates a lot of opportunities where branded search results really spike. People see the ads on TV, they Google it to see what that brand is and what they're all about. And so, to that end, CTV tees up paid search really nicely. And just also organic search. You're just going to get a large volume of users that have been exposed to your brand. So whether organically or from a paid standpoint, you really stand to benefit here. One thing that I want to shout out to, being a B2B marketer myself, is that CTV is another really great thing about it, is that generally we've been talking about how it's kind of like democratized TV advertising in that since it functions programmatically, the barrier of entry is a lot lower. Um, it's also kind of democratized TV advertising specifically for the B2B segment of the market. Again, we long look at TV advertising as a no man's land for B2B advertisers, but that's not the case anymore. Since CTV is fundamentally programmatic advertising, the audiences can be targeted with precision. And so the reason why B2B advertisers don't do TV advertising regularly is because of the imprecise nature of audience targeting. There just aren't a lot of opportunities in traditional TV advertising to neatly target your B2B audience. That's why, again, there's just a dearth of B2B advertising on linear. But in this case, we're targeting audiences precisely based off of their interests. And so it's game on for B2B advertisers. Again, um, one kind of thing to always kind of come back to is the fact that uh, or one thing to come back to is just kind of thinking about the end user experience. And very fundamentally, business execs watch TV too. People who work in B2B also watch TV. So it certainly makes sense for them to be served ads. And this is something you're certainly seeing on other channels, and likely if you're a B2B marketer, something that you are doing tactically. When I go to Instagram, I get a ton of advertisements for MarTech because I'm being targeted as a B2B marketer, even though I'm on something that seemingly isn't correlated with my sort of day job. I'm just browsing, Instagram. And so this is great for B2B marketers. Also, from like a ad experience standpoint too, it's just highly differentiated. I don't think a lot of prospects are used to seeing television advertising for B2B products, especially ones that are related to their industry. But really imagine, someone who's in market to buy ERP software and they're just sitting down streaming television and they see an ad for ERP software. That's highly, highly targeted. That's an ad experience you would not see on linear television. And so that can certainly serve a B2B brand quite nicely. Now, kind of concluding here, I want to talk about what it takes to find the right CTV tool for your needs. And I want to be clear, a lot of that stuff that we kind of talked about here with regards to producing that halo effect, um, not all CTV platforms are going to necessarily be able to do that for you. Some aren't really robust with targeting and measurement. You'll sort of notice this in that their reporting isn't real time in any sort of way. Some platforms are going to have reporting that probably intuitively feels to you like Nielsen reporting, in that it's sort of time delayed, and it's not, and it's probabilistic rather than being deterministic. And as a performance marketer, that's not the world that you're used to. You're used to real time reporting, and again having that portability to your reporting as well too, so that you can just kind of pipe that reporting into whatever analysis tool that you actually use. And also, along those same lines, Google Analytics is important. A lot of performance marketers, I suspect everybody on this call has access to a GA account. And not all of these CTV platforms are going to have that sort of capability. In the case of Mountain, there's a direct integration with Google Analytics. And so you can monitor the impact of your CTV campaigns, with like a source and medium of Mountain Performance TV alongside, your other acquisition channels. So again, making sure that your ad platform, your CTV platform, looks and feels like all of the other performance marketing channels is important. So you can compare them all side by side. So really, that's something that you probably want to take a look at. Um, some only focus on reach. To this point, again, you may kind of encounter other CTV solutions where they're either commingling um, uh, linear TV inventory, which is great for creating reach because there's an abundance of it, but it's not performant inventory. So that's something to kind of be considerate of. Other CTV platforms may kind of commingle inventory from other device types where it's not actually serving on a television necessarily. So really scrutinize the precise inventory that's actually being used in the delivery of your campaign. In the case of Mountain, we constrain the delivery of our campaigns to TV devices, and within those, we only use premium publishers. It's only publishers that you would be familiar with. There's a lot of TV publishers out there. Anyone can create their own CTV app, but we make sure that we don't serve ads on them. We really just kind of keep to a very short list of publishers, because as we've kind of learned over the course of operating this platform, the performance comes from serving ads on really well-known, reputable publishers. That's really the secret here. Um, and so, finally, the thing to consider about whatever tool you end up using for connected television is the way you think about your campaigns. And again, this is a concept that should be very familiar to the performance marketers here, which is think about your campaign as an always-on evergreen campaign. In the same way that you're not really tinkering with your paid search campaigns where you're constantly pausing and changing them. They're just always on. Set it and forget it. Well, not necessarily forget it. Definitely set it campaigns. You should be thinking about your TV campaigns in the same way. And that's what our advertisers are certainly doing. These are what we call evergreen campaigns. They turn on their TV campaigns. They swap out the creative with some sort of regularity, but the campaigns are always running. And so, I'll kind of move past this slide pretty quickly, just because I kind of talked about a lot of these points. But these are some things, if you're kind of curious about capabilities of the Mountain platform. I'll just highlight a couple that I think would be of some sort of interest to performance marketers. One is the types of audiences that you're targeting. We spend a lot of time talking about third-party audience or prospecting audience targeting. We talked a little bit about retargeting. But there's also the ability to do list-based retargeting. So if you have CRM data that you want to use, a loyalty program, you can upload that audience and use that as the basis for the targeting of your campaigns. It's also kind of goal-based advertising. So again, just as you would with your paid search or paid social campaigns, you'd go into a platform like Mountain, enter in your effective cost per acquisition or ROAS goal, and the platform optimizes against that. And you can just track against your goal rather than having to kind of fiddle around with bidding. You don't need to do that. It's just goal-based advertising. And then, of course, you have the capability, like you would on other ad platforms, to do things like A/B testing, run multiple ads, refresh that creative with regularity, and also there's incrementality reporting that's available to you native inside the platform to really measure the impact of your campaigns. So as we're done here, just want to reiterate a couple of the takeaways that we discussed here. One is obviously CTV is more popular than ever, but the real takeaway here is that it can be treated like a performance marketing platform. And now's the time for everyone who's kind of tuning in today to seize that. Add CTV into your channel mix to introduce even more performance to what it is that you're doing already. There's a halo effect that comes from running CTV campaigns where it positively impacts your other ad channels. And so finally, finding the right CTV platform that's going to deliver on all of these things. And again, not all of the platforms are oriented around performance marketing. And be mindful of that. There's still a lot of CTV platforms out there where their play is more so to brand marketers and kind of providing some level of like continuity from what a brand marketer would get out of broadcast TV advertising. But I suspect everybody who's tuning in here today is going to be more interested in a performance marketing platform. And so a platform like Mountain really kind of checks that box for you. With that, I just want to say thank you. I really appreciate the time, and have a great day.
Thank you for watching. Click the agenda link at the top of your screen to choose your next session.